Hi. So today's topic for environment related prelims powered by discussion is light pollution. So what is this light pollution? We would have come across lots of pollutions like air, water, soil, noise, radioactive pollution. All these types of pollution we have come across. But in recent times, one type of pollution has been introduced recently. That is the light pollution. That is the light pollution. So what is this light pollution? In basic terms, light being where it is not wanted is called as light pollution. If you look at the sky, what does the sky tell you? Like in the night and all, it will be very dark. But what is the characteristic of the night is that it will be very dark. But today in urban spaces and all, if you go, the night is not so dark because all these artificial lighting, even if you look at the sky, it will be very illuminated. So that is what we are calling it as light pollution. And you can clearly see the difference when you see a rural place in the sky, the night sky at the rural place and the night sky at the urban space will be completely different because the rural will be very dark because it has very less artificial lighting. On the other hand, the urban space will be very illuminated. Not saying it will be like day and all, but it will be very illuminated because of all these artificial light. For example, take Marina. You go to Marina, having this IPL fever wreaking havoc and all, when the Chepak is filled with all these audiences and a match is happening between any two teams, you go see Marina. Marina will be very illuminated. Marina, even at the night, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, you feel like it's just 6 o'clock in the evening. So that is what the impact this particular light pollution can have. Even for individuals like us, even for humans, it has such an impact. But for animals, smaller animals and all, it will have a large scale impact. For example, we have these nocturnal animals. The nocturnal animals are animals that are very active during the night rather than the day. When these animals, when they don't feel like this is the night, they will not be active, and there is a possibility that we may lose all these animals due to their inactivity. So that is one big issue when it comes to all these light pollution. And light pollution has different sources. You can also say natural sources and artificial sources. Natural sources come from starlight, sunlight, moonlight, and all other sources can be added to the natural sources of light pollution, not pollution per se. But artificial sources are the major cause. For example, lights, wind farms, all these stadiums that you do, all these urban spaces that you open, all these are artificial spaces, artificial sources of light pollution. Now, what are the impacts, or why was this in particularly news? Is that a report has been released with respect to light pollution in the oceans. Light pollution in the oceans. That is artificial light in the night. Artificial light in the night. So this has nothing. There's a lot of things to do with marine organisms. Especially when you look at our ocean, if you look at a water body, it can be divided into three zones. One is the euphotic zone, the dysphotic zone, and the aphotic zone. The euphotic zone will be around 200 meters, will be up to 200 meters depth, where sufficient light will be available, photosynthesis will be happening, all these plants will be flourishing there. That is what is known as the euphotic zone. With respect to the dysphotic zone, I am telling you people that it is not something that does not have light. Light will be there, but it will be very feeble on a very little amount only of light only will be penetrating the dysphotic zone. And if you go to the aphotic zone, no light at all. As the name suggests, aphotic, no light and all, will be very dark. Like below 1000 meters and all, after 1000 meters it will be very dark. That is how the three layers are arranged. But what this artificial lights do is that they increase or they widen the euphotic zone. Like at initially it might sound like something good. Yes, more photosynthesis happen, more carbon is being captured, fishes get more food to eat. And initially it may sound like this, but it has a lot of other complications also. For example, it may change the way these organisms, especially marine organisms, interact. It can change their mating behaviors. It can change their reproductive characteristics and behaviors. It can also have this. It can also change the intraspecific and interspecific relationships between two species or within that particular species. All these relationships can change. And yes, just like how we are being guided by our biological clocks called as the circadian rhythm, other organisms also have their own clocks that guide them. This is night, this is day. But when all these artificial lights come in, these particular rhythms, and they can be hampered, they can be handled, they can be hurdled. So this is what a major issue with respect to light pollution is, and it also can affect something called as a DLVL migration. So that was DL vertical migration that was recently in use also. We will see here what is DL vertical migration later. So it can also affect the real vertical migration also to a large scale. What can be done to handle this light pollution? We have a lot of solutions. One major solution is that we can announce areas, regions as dark sky reserves. That is, no large scale artificial light must be used in this particular place, because in order to conserve the dark space and give it to the nocturnal animals that live there. Give it to the nocturnal animals and let them work there. So it can be done, and all these barriers to stop light can be built, like a very very big umbrella or whatnot. These barriers can be built in order to keep the artificial light outside. And another thing can be used in these coastal regions and all. Red light can be used a lot. Why red light can be used? Red light is something that has the lowest energy. We have the spectrum, right? In that spectrum, it has the longest wavelength and the lowest energy. When it comes to water initially absorbs the wavelengths or the colors that have low energy and the longest wavelength. So reds, your oranges and your yellows, they get penetrated, they penetrate and get absorbed easily. They get absorbed easily and they do not penetrate much deeper, like the blues and violets too. They do not go to much deeper depths of the ocean or any water body for that matter. So using red lights can be helpful, and we'll also have to find alternatives for lighthouses. And yes, lighthouses we need. We'll also find alternatives for lighthouses and all these extravagance that we use. For example, the cruise ships or all these parties that happen in the coastal regions and all. We'll have to find alternatives for all these things in order to handle light pollution or to keep light pollution at bay. So now coming to the DL vertical migration, we talked about how this light pollution affects DL vertical migration also. But initially, what is this DL vertical migration? DL vertical migration is something that happens in a day. Initially, we talked about the euphotic zone where the sunlight will be abundant and plants, they produce all these phytoplanktons and all. They want a sunlight in order to produce, right? So they'll be available in the top layers of the region in order to produce food, and all the animals, organisms, fishes, crustaceans, all the other types of organisms, those who consume these phytoplanktons, they'll be down at depths. Now in the night, in order to avoid predators, they'll have to migrate from the lower regions, that is from the mesopelagic region or the middle region, to the epipelagic region, that is the upper region. They'll have to migrate from the mesopelagic region to the epipelagic region in order to consume the phytoplanktons and zooplanktons that live in the surfaces. So this is what a DL vertical migration is, and this is the largest migration that occurs in a day. Every day this happens. In the night they go back to the surface, they eat all the phytoplanktons that are there, and during day, when twilight comes, they go back, and this happens like a circle. This is what DL vertical migration is. And how is this being affected by light pollution, you ask? Yes, a lot of studies have told that light intensity is the major reason that drives this particular migration. When a light is very high, even in the nights when the lights are very high, these organisms, they will not migrate. If they do not migrate, they will not eat. And yes, we will also have loss of species. We can see loss of economic potential also from fisheries. This can happen. So this is how the DL vertical migration and light pollution are interrelated. Thank you.